Hello, this is Rick Powers coming to you from my home office for Western Technical College. And this is for the course of Basic Statistics. So, this is really important and it's really strange because we're talking about probability. And probability, we all talk about situations like even just on a plain Monopoly, you roll the dice. And sometimes you get a certain result. Sometimes you get something else, and you might win. You might lose. You don't know. But it's also the case that probability has to do with uncertainty. The fact that we don't actually know what's going to happen a lot of the time. For example, I don't know if my car is going to have a muffler problem in the next 6 months. I just don't know that. It might not. I don't know if I'm going to need some kind of intervention at a hospital or something. It's possible. It's not very likely, but it could happen. And all those situations where we say, I don't actually know. I don't know if the Packers are going to win their next football game. I just don't know. Nobody knows for sure. And so then there's all this uncertainty in the world. And then when we say, well, if I'm taking a chance of some kind, how does that work? And especially in statistics, how does it work with numbers that we're measuring? Because statistics is measuring numbers that change. And so it's very much a situation where we don't actually know the results. Certainly we don't know the exact results. And so then when we say, how can I use this? What are some mathematical tools that I can use to understand uncertainty, taking a chance? Well, we'll explore those different things. But this can get, it can get really personal, okay? Because, for example, COVID-19, wearing a mask. What happens when people wear a mask? They change the probability of illness. But there's other things that change in their life. And some people say, well, if you wear a mask, then the government is likely to cause you to do other things that you don't necessarily want to do. Well, I don't know. Is it possible that could happen? But the uncertainty is what people don't like. When you say, I don't know what will happen if I wear a mask or if I don't wear a mask. But statistics works with that. People do research and they say, okay, here's a bunch of people wearing a mask. Here's a bunch of people not wearing a mask. Who gets sick? Who doesn't? How likely is it? But it's not a for sure. It's not well, if you wear a mask, you're fine all the time. I think you will be most of the time if you wear a mask. And if you don't, you're taking a chance. You're running a risk. But that's different if you're outside, like riding your bike or something like that with a mask on. Probably not necessary. But if you're sitting at a table with other people around within a few feet and they're all talking, it's a good idea to wear a mask, probably in that kind of situation. But it's not just that, okay? It's like car insurance. How does an insurance company decide whether you're going to pay a lot or a little on your car insurance? That's probabilities. They don't actually know exactly what's going to happen, but they have to put a dollar amount on what happens. If you're of a certain age, how much does insurance cost? Well, they say it's different for different people. They don't know for sure whether you're going to get an accident, but they think the chances are more likely if you're of a certain age, right? But it even gets to things like cancer treatments. What's a good cancer treatment? I don't know. How did they figure that out? They try things and then they decide what has a more or less likely outcome that would be beneficial. But there's so many things. Wearing seatbelts. How safe do we need to make the roads? What safety requirements do we have for automobiles? What kinds of restrictions should we put on buying guns or selling guns or buying opioids or selling opioids? These are things that have an effect, but we don't actually know what those effects are. We take some chances with those things. And for some people, that's just, it's very difficult to think about the fact that you don't know the outcome. And especially in a pandemic, a lot of people struggle. I mean, all of us struggle to a certain extent that we don't actually know what's going to happen, and it's hard. It's difficult. But in statistics, what we try to do is we manage uncertainty. We have parameters. We say, I think it's true in this case most of the time, and then it allows us then to make good decisions about important things like treatments for diabetes or cancer or whatever else. We can make some of those decisions if we have some idea of what are the chances of a thing. And of course, it applies in sports all the time. They have different percentages. What's the chance of somebody winning if they throw this kind of a pass in this situation? And it gets pretty nuts. I mean, it's people using so much statistics, and it can be really powerful, but it can also be really difficult to work with because you don't actually know the outcome. So what's our goal? Our goal is to make good decisions based on the amount of uncertainty that we have and being able to work with that uncertainty. So this is one of those first steps, is to understand just what is probability and how does it work. So that's what we're going to be doing. And certainly if you have any questions about anything like that, or have any questions about things, certain decisions that people make using statistics, and you're like, how does that happen? I'd certainly love to have that kind of a discussion with you. So yeah, best wishes, and let me know if you need anything.